passionate, so they are making it.
Sure. Can you say anything about the?
What's the deal?
But 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning.
Same here.
On the rest of it.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our last GPAC meeting. Our last official GPAC meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, and let's have a roll call.
Member Bajaj. Present. Member Shashan. Member Shashan. Member Eller.
Here.
Member Funabashi.
Here.
Member Gaddis. Here. Member Hannon. Here. Member Kilroy. Here. Member Lamb. Here. Member Light.
You just walked in.
Member Mackenzie.
Just say here.
Oh, here.
Member Light present.
Sorry.
Member Mackenzie. Here. Member Moses.
Here.
Member Nafisi. Member Pensler.
Here.
Member Samaras.
Here.
Member Simpson.
Here.
Member Stoddard. Here. Member Sinmonsky.
Here.
Member Waller.
Here.
Chair Byro.
Here.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Here.
Thank you.
Member Samansky, could you please lead us in the salute to the flag?
Okay, everybody rise. I've got my hat off. Begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to move that we approve the order of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed?
You want to call
So-
out the first and second? You want to call out first and second for the?
Oh, Yes, I owe names of the motion, was seconded by Mackenzie, and seconded by,
First was over there, right?
yeah, Eller and Mackenzie. My apologies for getting that. Okay, so we get that, and let's see, we got blue folder items, we got a thick packet of stuff here. Let's move to receive and file our blue folder items.
I'll make a motion to receive the blue folder items.
I'll second.
Okay, so we got a motion by Funabashi and seconded by Szymanski. And now we got our consent calendar. Should have done these all together. Move the consent calendar, please.
Samaras first. Motion.
A second. Waller second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So moved. Thank you. Okay. Why does this not have the first section? Can we pull, let's see if I flip. Yeah. Do we have any cards that have been filled out for folks that are going to speak? If we don't have cards, then just come up to the mic, state your name and what are you speaking about, and we have 15 minutes, 3 minutes apiece, and former Planning Director Brandy Forbes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's a little bit difficult to pick up, and we want to make sure that it's being picked up live. So if you can please speak directly into your microphones, that would be extremely helpful, because we want to make sure that it's properly recorded. Thank you.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Hi there, Brandy Forbes, Redondo Beach resident. I just wanted to come here on your last GPAC meeting and commend all of you for the hard work that you've put in over the years. I know firsthand just how much you've done and how much collaboration you've put into this document. I know it's not perfect, it's not exactly what the city wanted for necessarily for land use, and there was a lot that came at us for the housing element needs, but you guys really handled that so professionally and so working together to find some solutions. I think that this is a really fine document, and you should be very proud of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
First off, I wanted to thank all of you for doing this excellent job that you've done, 27 meetings. It's been a long and winding road, but it's people like you who make Redondo the great place it is to live. Okay, my name is Tom Bauer. I'm a Redondo Beach resident, and I've spoken to the committee before, and I'm here on the exact same topic, actually, and that is to ask you to recommend that we modify commercial zoning regulations to include a slight change, and that slight change is to add a grandfather clause to allow whatever's currently there to be rebuilt if it is destroyed. This same grandfather clause is already part of all the residential zone in Redondo, but it's not part of the commercial areas, which is a problem because it increases the risk of owning these lots. This one small change has the potential to reinvigorate the Artesia corridors and the Pacific Coast Highway corridors. But let me give you an example. So say you have, there's many of these actually, these long and narrow lots along, say, PCH. In the front of PCH is a commercial building, a hair salon. In the back is a triplex where people are living. It's zone C2, so that triplex in the back makes this non-conforming. This use is very risky for a number of reasons. If this thing is destroyed, you cannot rebuild what is there. What is going to go back is a big mystery. I'm not even sure what can be built there. It's likely to be a vacant lot for quite a bit of time if it is taken out. But it increases the risk that no bank wants to loan any money on this because you cannot get financing. Just getting insurance becomes a huge, difficult task because insurance companies don't like anything that varies from the norm. Just this one slight change, which is a recommendation from you guys to say, hey, let's add a grandfather clause to allow the rebuild of what's currently there. So, you know, we're not adding anything. It needs to be rebuilt in the same configuration, same square footage that is currently there. It's working today. It's just allowing people to put back what is currently there. That one small change will suddenly make an owner of the property feel like, hey, I can invest in my property and not worry about losing that money. Because today, if a fire happens, you're likely going to lose a ton of money. There's just nothing else you're going to be doing to do with it. My Congressman Nils supports this. I've talked to some others. There's a number of other people that support it. There's some state regulations, some state bills and assembly bills that suggest that the city of Redondo can't reduce residential units. So it might, in order to conform with these, Redondo may have to make this, at some point, to make this change, but it's important to make it clear for financiers, for banks and insurance companies to look at the regs and go, hey, yeah, this is not a problem. It's not a problem for residential units. If you have a residential unit, say a fourplex on land that you could only support 2 of them today, you could rebuild those 4 today, and it's not a problem. Banks know, they understand it, they understand the language, and it all works. So please consider making that recommendation. I think it would be good for Redondo. But thank you so much for all you do. Oh, if you have any questions, feel free, anything.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Larson. I'm with Ruchana Tucker. I act as special counsel to Beach Cities Health District. I want to express my appreciation to all your hard work. I just wanted to come up here and express a concern with regards to the proposed floor area ratio for properties designated as public institutional in the proposed general plan. So as you know, Beach Cities Health District provides a wide range of preventative health care services to the South Bay community, including those here in Redondo Beach. It provides those services primarily at its main campus at 514 North Prospect, which is currently has a land use designation as public institutional and is zoned community facility, which is essentially essentially the same land use and zoning designation as, for example, the city's civic center. The proposed floor area ratio in the updated general plan is 0.75, except it has a carve out for other public and institutional designated properties, including the Civic Center. That's a concern, primarily because Beach Cities Health District has an old facility that needs to be modernized. The current building the original structure was built in 1958. It's seismically deficient. It requires modernization. It's economically infeasible to seismically update the facility, so there needs to be some modernization there. If they don't do that, then they're going to be expending more money than they have on maintaining it, and there's going to be a loss of services. With the FAR at 1.75, it does not prevent or provide the ability to provide the level of services that Beach Cities has and would like to continue to provide. The proposed FAR, we believe, is contrary to California law in that it is not uniform across all properties with the same land use designation and zoning. There's California code provision that requires that there be uniformity. We also believe that it violates equal protection and due process because it discriminates against specific properties without a rational basis. Beyond that, it's inconsistent with other statements and policies in the proposed general plan, specifically those that provide for the continuation and expansion of health-related services in the city. And that's currently policy LU 1.13 and the other policies that provide for partnerships with health-related organizations. We believe that by discriminating against and providing a lesser FAR for Beach Cities Health District, that violates those policies. And ultimately, without a change, there will be a loss of essential services, vital services to help Beach Cities community and the residents of Redondo Beach. And we strongly recommend that the proposed FAR for public institutional in the general plan update be revised to be uniform and provide for a consistent 1.25, which is what is currently provided for other properties with that same designation, that designation be uniform across all similarly situated properties at 1.25. And appreciate your time and again, all your work, and I'll close with that.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Will there be anybody else speaking in this first segment? Oh, we got one more.
Good evening. My name's Tom Backley. I'm the CEO of the Beach Cities Health District. I think I was before this group about 5 or 6 years ago. I came and we talked about some of the work that we had done on the general plan up in Hermosa Beach when I was city manager there. So I just wanted to come thank you for your work over the last 7 years and 20 some odd meetings. So thank you for your work. You just heard some of the legal concerns that we have with the draft general plan. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the planning and policy concerns and just put those before you tonight. This is a property that's been around for 65 years. It's a property that currently has a conditional use permit on it by downzoning a public property. That's essentially what you're doing or the city would be doing if this was approved, it would be downzoning public land. We don't think that's wise. We don't know what the future holds. We've been able to be flexible and adapt and provide healthcare services for many years. We were able to do that during the pandemic. So permanently downzoning and addressing and reducing the density on a property that's been around for a long time that also has a certified and unchallenged EIR for a plan. That's something that's been in place for a couple of years. We have a certified EIR. It was not challenged. And then to sort of put this in after the fact, I think is contrary to that. Again, I think if there are concerns about aspects of the plan, those would be better addressed with the tools that you have before you in Redondo with a conditional use permit as opposed to a zoning change that doesn't uniformly address properties that have the same designation. So what we're asking for is that the general plan be consistent and continuous. You've seen or heard some of the legal concerns we have. I think it's just good policy. We've been a partner for a long time with the city. We continue to be partners. We have the same zoning, and that's something that we hope will continue in the future. If it does not, then the district will have a hard time providing the services and the public services that it does. And so that's an impact when you change the zoning of a public land use as opposed to a private land use. You have a direct impact on the provision of public services. I don't know that you've ever done that before. Maybe you've done that with the schools, I don't know. But that is a significant change and one that we hope you will consider long and hard before making that change. And again, we hope for some sort of continuity. 1.25 is something that may be consistent with some of your other public designations and something that we would like you to consider. If this stays in the general plan, this is something that we will need to continue to challenge and have concerns about into the future as it impacts our future and the ability to provide health services to the Redondo residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Backlund. Anybody else? All right, that concludes our first.
If I may, I'm going to just double check to make sure. If anyone on Zoom wishes to speak, please raise your hand at this time.
Thank you.
There is no one raising their hand at this time.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment for first session. Move on to our next item. Announcements and updates.
Thank you, Wendy. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Our last meeting. It's very exciting. It's been an amazing journey. It's a great turnout, too. You guys have stuck with it for so long and worked so hard. It's been really impressive for me. I've worked at a lot of cities and counties around the state and been through this before a couple of times, and a community as involved as this I've never been with. And I know Wendy feels the same way. We've talked about it quite a bit. But I've got a slide I need to present. And it's essentially, how the housing element and how it affects the general plan update process. So first and foremost, Redondo Beach has a certified and compliant housing element as of July 5th, 2022. So that's our starting point. However, in order to maintain a compliant housing element, HCD requires that the city update the general plan and the zoning by February of 2025. So that means we've got in the land plan, there's a number of properties that are identified as our housing sites in the housing element. Those have to be, the zoning and general plan designations have to be changed to accommodate those housing sites, to accommodate our RHNA and be compliant with our housing element. So what that means is we've got to get everything done, including the environmental review, and we're working on the EIR right now, all the public workshops. We got 2 scheduled, as well as the public hearings before the Planning Commission and the City Council, then a ballot measure. And that's all got to happen before February 2025. So we've got to move through this body and get it on to that next phase. So the consequences of us not hitting that target would be that we would be subject to the builder's remedy projects. So what that means is a developer, a builder could come into the city if our housing, so let's say 2 scenarios, the ballot measure fails, or we don't get to it by that certification or by that date of February 2025, then our housing element is non-compliant. And that opens the door for a builder's remedy project. And essentially a residential or mixed-use developer could come in, as long as that project included 20% lower income or 100% moderate, it does not have to comply with our zoning standards. So it could go essentially anywhere. The density would be determined by the developer. I think the only ability we would have to work with that project would be if it was tripping a threshold of public safety, safety and health. And that's a high bar. So that's the consequence if we can't get this job done by February 2025. Now, you may have heard there's a recent judge's ruling that it was on a builder's remedy project that was trying to come into the city. So that ruling is under appeal, so I can't really say much about it. But that is, what that means for the housing element and how we apply Article 27 is still under consideration by the city. So, well, that's to be determined as to how we address Article 27 with respect to that ruling. So I wanted to just get that out to everybody. Maybe, yes.
Just one quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Our next city election is March 2025. Does this have to be on a city ballot? Can it be on a special election ballot?
It could
Or does it have
be-
to be on November?
It could be on a special election ballot. Yeah. So that's, yes.
Is there anything you're asking of this group here today to decide or vote?
No, our charge today is to move this forward into the next phase, which would be the public workshops. That's the draft general plan update. I'm providing that just some information for all of you to understand, what some consequences may be, and there's been a lot of information about this of late, so I wanted to get that out to all of you before I turn it over to Wendy, and we walk down memory lane a little bit, and
Well, we got a few things in between.
yes. All right, you want to use this one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Wow, I'm having a flashback from the first time I stood here with all these new eyes looking at me, and now I feel like we're old friends. So, but yes, the purpose of tonight's meeting is for you guys to receive. I mean, you've gotten copies of the general plan to look at, but to receive it, acknowledge the council said we have 27 meetings. We're at meeting 27. We have to send the baby off to college and see what happens. And so the intent tonight is to take that, move it on, and I'm trying to think of what else. And for those that are watching online as well, this is not just the GPAC's document, it's the community's document. You guys, as you know, I mean, I'm telling you things you know, but had worked for a very long time and put forward recommendations that were weighed in by the community, then planning commission, and then council, and that's all what's folded into this plan. Now, I'm sure because it's, it's a big document, there are probably going to be little things we find here or there, a typo. We found in your blue folder, it was like, oh, I thought I got rid of all the AES references to when and if that thing closes. So now we've updated that, but you guys have been instrumental in helping to be 27 extra sets of eyes to make sure that this is as good of a document as it can be. So with that, I'm trying to figure out where I need to aim. So tonight, we had sent you all a link that we had talked about how the last meeting was going to go, and everybody gets a one-page, here are my last thoughts that I want to share with council. So that was that form that we sent to you, and that's special for you all as GPAC. Now, if you want to say it's amazing, we love the process, you can do that too. But it's your one page to say what you want to say. And that will be packaged up and forwarded to all the decision makers to look at when it gets time to do that. You also will see next week, we are going to be putting the general plan, and to clarify, it's not the entire general plan. This is a focused general plan update. So the elements that are up for review by the public and action by the decision makers are land use, open space and conservation, noise, safety. Am I missing any? That's 4. Those are. And that's it, those 4. You already updated your housing element. We did not update the circulation element. And there are some older elements that are hanging out, utilities, senior services, and there's one more I'm forgetting at this point. But they have been updated for format, just so the document looks as consolidated as possible. But when you read the elements, they were adopted a long time ago and probably need some polishing or looking at down the road. So the elements that are being looked at are those 4: land use, open space and conservation, noise, and safety. And so next week, we will also be posting the general plan online. We're working on getting that uploaded on the city's website, but there's a program that's called Conveo, and I know our friend Sheila has also talked to this company as well. But what it does is it puts the entire general plan, this is a screen grab of it, it puts the entire general plan on, it looks like a PDF, and people can drop comments in where they would like to, so we can get everyone's comments on the general plan. So we're only going to post those 4 elements that everybody can comment on as part of the decision-making. The rest of the elements will be on the website for people to look. You've got all of the elements for your reference, but when they're commenting, it'll be on the 4. And then we'll pull all those comments together with yours and keep forwarding all of these things along. So, Chair, do you want to say a few words before I pick it back up? Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, Wendy. And I know to this group, there's no need to continue to stay involved, because I think everybody in this room is very active and will continue to be. But we were trying to assess the level of planning education that everybody received here over the last 7 years, and it's pretty outstanding. And the ask, at least that I have, that even though this is our last GPAC meeting, that we're still ambassadors to the general plan, and that you continue to tell your friends and neighbors what the general plan is and the importance of the document, as you've seen in the beginning and what Sean described, that it is, we need to have some documents line up, and if that alignment happens, it needs to happen through our outreach and our education to those that don't understand what we've been doing for the last few years. So continue to teach, continue to share, and continue to point people to where the documents are, at least so everybody can make their own vote when this goes to vote. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. All right. If you will indulge me, I have 10 minutes. Chair doesn't think I can do it in 10 minutes, but you've seen me go through a lot of slides before. I'd like to take a walk down memory lane. What started as a 5K has turned into a marathon. And you guys have been training and running this whole time, taking water breaks when necessary, but we're not done yet. There's a long way to go still between council meetings, ballot measures, going to coastal, all the things. My little clicker does not want to work with me today. There we go. Okay. And so if you remember, I just want to take us back to where we started and what were we even talking about, because we took a look at market analyses and studies and demographics. And so the highlights that we were really focusing on with the general plan were how the city was growing, what's the population growth, like who are we planning for? We saw that there was a trend of an aging population and loss of working age residents. And if you think about when we talk about the vision, you guys started talking about family friendly and how we start to turn that trend around. Housing affordability. How do we make it so more people can afford to live in Redondo Beach? Looking at how the retail environment is changing, obviously with all of our online purchasing and other things, experiential type of retail experiences that people want to see. What does that look like for Redondo? And then availability of jobs in the city. Where can people work? They want to live, work, and play here. Where do they work? And so these are some of the stats that we had. We were planning potentially for about 3,000 new residents in the next 20 years. Now, these are the numbers from 2017, okay? So please don't go back to the build out and do that. I just pulled from our very first slides, okay? And so when you look at 3,000 new residents, what does that look like for units? And that's about 64 new units a year, but over 20 years, you need almost 1,300 units. So where do those people live? Then we looked at, and the affordability factor, and this was one of the stats you all were working with, is that only 1.2% of the homes were affordable for purchase by someone that's making the median income in Redondo, and that was $106,000. So, and that's if they can make a 20% down payment. So that's 1.2%. That's not a lot of availability. The population was aging, so the residents 55 and older were up 29%. And the big one was the number of people that were leaving the city every day to go to work. So when you look at the percent of working residents, 92, almost 93%, almost everybody is leaving to go work somewhere else each day. And I want to say it was like 30,000 people or something. I'm trying to remember the number, but it's 92% of your entire population. This looks like it would be fun, like a Candyland map game, but this is the gauntlet you guys have gone through over the past 7 years. And this was just to get, this one is showing just to get to a land plan. So that doesn't even talk about the goals and policies and the elements, and but as you can see, there's the vision, creating the land use map, looking at the alternatives, wrestling with RHNA, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, how do we meet those housing requirements that are being asked of the city, and then it keeps going. So we're going to be updating for the community when we do the community workshop, the next steps, and I'll show you that toward the end of our show.
Where are we today?
We are like over here. That's why we have to update it, because this just got us to those first meetings. And so now there should be goals and policies, there should be workshops, there's going to be LCP. So at the very end of next steps, I can show you what other things are there. And so we'll that took us, 4 meetings and a weekend? I hope we know where we're going now. This was very fun to pull this together, so I hope you find this as kind of rewarding and as fun as I did. But do you remember you did the likes and dislikes survey? You walked around the city. I was like, oh yeah, the dot exercise. And you gave us
I'm having flashbacks.
You're having flashbacks? Hopefully it's not PTSD. Hopefully we're smiling about this now. But yeah, the imagery that we had, and we talked about it, and we got photos you brought in of the parks that you liked and other ideas. It's really helpful because we can sit up here all day as a consultant and bring ideas, but you guys are the experts in your community, and knowing what things would resonate with your community and what's missing is what's important, and why your role was so important in putting fingerprints on this plan. We did the vision, all those Post-its everywhere. Do you remember that? And the one time you guys had to stand in the corner and then explain what was on the vision, and then everybody was asking. I was like, now they know. Now they know what it feels like to be in the middle. Your vision statement, Bob's favorite. He loves the grammar. But it is a vision statement that was born by a collection of ideas. It focuses on your quality of life, your beach culture, community and family, your preservation of neighborhoods, mobility options, your beach, harbor, and waterfront, which are essential to the character of this community, culture and education, business and technology, and civic engagement.
I think the vision only took us 4 meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first thing out of the gate. So you guys are like, we're getting down to business. We are serious about this. So it set the tone though. This is very important. This is what everybody is working toward. It's important. We talked about districts, we talked about what is the neighborhoods, built form, we've talked about lot depths and the uses and what can actually be built, if we're trying to enhance the corridors and what roles they could play. We talked about land use alternatives. I think we had something like 600 responses to this online, what would you like to see where? And if you remember, if you looked when we had the focus area, there were like 4 alternatives for every focus area. And so there was a lot. The other things we talked about was transit-oriented development, mixed-use development, what that looks like and where and how it should be applied in the city. Parks and open space. So when we first started, the 2 big things that we were brought on to do were help have the land use discussion and talk about parks. And it got much bigger as we went through this whole process. But you were looking at acres per 1,000, what kinds of park spaces are missing, creative ways to provide public space. So when we're looking at the pier, the Esplanade, other usable open spaces, trying to connect the Edison corridors. And then obviously when we started talking about Artesia and aviation, you started looking more at the corridor improvements and enhancements and what does that experience actually in the built environment feel like. And so what does this general plan do after all 7 years? What does 7 years of your life do for the city? And this is really important. It puts the goals and policies that you all crafted and put your fingerprints on at the forefront of decision making. So when plans come in, when we're looking at new infrastructure improvements, when we're looking at parks, you go back to the general plan and it's an interdepartmental tool really, because there's a lot of policies that affect a lot of departments. And it also helps to ensure that you have housing element compliance and meet state law. So that's another big thing. So much legislation came into play. Like, I think, Nick, your phrase was the goalpost kept moving. Like, we started with this, and then we had to do this, and then we had to keep responding. And that's what's hard on a long-term document like this that's a 20-year plan. The implementation actions that are in this document, the city has strategic planning, and so that's one of those first things you can go to every year as the council is doing the strategic plan, saying, what did we achieve? What did we say the timing was? Are these still implementation actions that we want to follow up on? And then either check them off, update them, if they're obsolete, remove them. So you've got this tool that everyone can use. I think that's that one. Sean, do you want to do some of the element highlights, or do you want me to just keep going? Okay, just keep going. All right. And so in land use, the big things that were added, you did a lot of health and vitality goals that were in, you've got your healthy city that you're trying to get toward, a lot of environmental policies. We updated the definitions. You identified special policy areas. Here's some, areas that really should be focused and have opportunities to continue to evolve or should be treated specially. And then there were historic preservation goals and policies also included. In the open space and conservation, we refined the park definitions. We did a lot of conversations on definitions, like what does it mean? Where does it go? Looking at those new opportunities for public spaces, connectivity. Well, the one that Sean always reminds me of is all the public view sheds, scenic vistas, light pollution, those sorts of things. Were integrated into the plan. Talking about conservation of coastal resources, and then of course stormwater management, groundwater recharge, and then how we deal with programs and funding. These are our illustrious special policy areas. You had, 7 of them, and spent a lot of time, very thoughtful conversations. We'll see pictures later of you guys all around the maps and like the in-depth conversations that you were having, because there's such little space. These parcels, so you've got parcels here, or there's some, the gallery is a little bit different, but there are some real strategies that could be applied in these areas, and you guys were really unpacking conversations about that. The safety element was important. That was updated. There were a lot of new legislative requirements related to safety, and that was also triggered by the housing element. You needed to update you had to do a vulnerability assessment, and then you prepared a local hazard mitigation plan. And by doing, those two things are both adopted, and by doing that, it made the city available to receive FEMA funding that it wasn't able to get before. So there's geologic hazards, flood hazards, climate change, hazardous materials. There's not really a topic this document doesn't touch on. Oh, I'm sure somebody will find one, but you know what I mean. It's very extensive. And then the noise element, there are new existing contours, new future contours in there showing the updated noise map. And then there are standards by land use and mitigation as well. Outreach. That was something that was very important to everybody from the very beginning. So it was layering it, going where the people go, doing what they do. So these are some of the areas and places that the general plan showed up over 7 years. As you guys recall, do you remember back very in the beginning, we had the list and everybody had to call like 20 people? I mean, look at this list, and then you multiply that by 10, 20 people that you guys reached out to related to each of that. You know, you were the first touch point for a lot of people about the general plan, and most people don't know what a general plan is, so you were that ambassador to help explain why it's important to the city, and we'll continue to have that role as we move forward after this meeting. And so what we'd like to do is have a very special thank you for you guys, and I have some more stats, but these are a little bit more fun, I think. And so 1,800 people are the approximate number of people that you guys reached out to, but these were only with meetings, workshops, and surveys. It doesn't include your ambassadorship. It doesn't include people that came to Planning Commission or Council, that watched online. So I would imagine that number is much, much higher. But this was just a quantified number that I could give to you. With all the surveys as well. So the hours that you spent just coming to these meetings, 27 meetings times 4, you know, you almost 3 solid weeks. Like you almost just spent a month. I mean, sure, and that doesn't include the time you guys spent on your own, on weekends, reading and talking to people and other things. So you spent quite a bit of time and dedicated that to the city. We started with 2 elements. It was supposed to be nice, and the charge was, Wendy, get this done in 2 years. That's what I was told with the environmental and all the hearings, and here we are. We ended up with 5. Now, the housing element was parallel and separate, but you essentially went through almost a comprehensive general plan update with the work that you guys had done. The other things, so not even the general plan, you dipped your fingers into some other planning tools and documents to help continue to move the city forward. There are 5 other documents and activities that you were involved in. One was the Artesia Corridor, the ACAP, and that document that you all reviewed and commented on turned into new development standards. We're trying to find a way to help incentivize and revitalize Artesia Corridor, the vulnerability assessment, the LHMP, and then the housing element. So there was a lot going on other than just the general plan. And then I have a few other stats, the unofficial stats that aren't on here. 1 is the number of pandemics the general plan process went through. 2 is a couple things. 2 is, we talked about the number of kids that were born on my team's staff. Well, any engagement and 2 kids. But 2 is also the number of community development directors you had. 2 is also the number of city managers you had. 2 is also the number of presidents that were in office during the time of the update. Am I missing? What?
Also lost a few members.
We did. We definitely did. So, and then it was like, was it 5 or 6 beach life festivals? Like we could keep going. There's a lot of stuff that was going on. And what that speaks to is the stick-to-itness of this group and the dedication of this group, because despite all the stuff that was changing and the legislation that's coming in and out, and you guys held steady. Now, I'm not going to say there weren't feisty conversations, because there were, but you guys created a space to continue to make sure that the general plan and all of the stuff you're having to wrestle with had a safe place to have that conversation. So, come on, clicker. Here are just some images. I don't know if these are giving you PTSD. You see yourself, the Post-its. You probably don't want to see another Post-it or a map for as long as you live. But, hours you all spent looking at those maps, marking them up, talking about them, talking about typologies. Remember when 190th Street was one of the areas everyone was talking about, and we had the whole neighborhood come, and the kids came and had a healthy conversation about that. Hours, you guys, hours of meetings, listening, and patient. You guys are so patient to sit at this table and listen to me go on and on about these presentations. And the bottom one, that's the visioning. So a lot of it was the maps, but I also included, and she's not here tonight, but our audience member that had, when we were talking about who had the best attendance, we should have kept track of the GPAC members, but Holly, and she was here. I was sure she was going to be here tonight. But so we do a special shout out to her. Yeah.
She's fighting the green line right now.
You see? So we'll have to let her know we were thinking of her. And so with that, I would like to, was it 10 minutes? Maybe a little more? Okay. I'd like to offer the group a token of appreciation. And this came from one of the days we had like it was probably the 4th meeting on land use or something. And it was like, okay, I know how hard the vision was. Land use, like this one's a beast. And Jennifer and I had talked about, we had talked about horseback riding and horseshoes 2 meetings prior. And I had forgotten we had talked about it. And she showed up and she brought in, I don't have mine handy. It's in my purse. But she gave me a horseshoe. And I was like, oh, how nice. That's, they're lucky and it was fun to have. That was the night you all got through the land use plan. And I couldn't believe it. And so, as superstition would have it, I put that horseshoe in my bag every meeting thereafter, just to send the good juju, because it was finally, hard conversations, but you guys got through it. And so, what I'd like to do is call everybody up, and I don't know, Chair, I think if this is the time that somebody wants to have like a hot minute to say anything. But what we have for each of you, and we'll start with the Chair, is a horseshoe. I washed them all myself. But what it says on it, it says, may you continue to be tough on issues and soft on people. Because there's still a lot of conversation that's going to be had, and there's still a lot of strong feelings one way or the other. And the one thing that you all have done, and this is just for me observing you and all the groups that I work with the dedication, where you guys started, it was still differing opinions, but it was very like, how am I going to get everybody to talk to each other and hear each other? And through all the meetings, you guys did that. You created space for each other, and didn't always like what everybody else was saying, and that's okay. You don't have to. But the idea is that this general plan, as Randy was saying, is better because of those hard conversations. And if you remember when I first started, because I knew these conversations were going to be hard, we had that degrees of consensus graphic. And it's not everything's 100% yes or 100% no. Decisions are always kind of made somewhere in the middle. And I was joking with Sean and Nick that, I probably have the only job where a success is that nobody is happy with the plan. So I think that's where we are at this point, is that you guys have put in a lot of time. And so I'd like, we got it up. So Nick, Chair Bureau, if I may, I can start, and then we'll just go down the line, and then everybody can say their last piece, if you like.
So my little last piece is, Steve Aspel came to my house sometime in 2016 or early 17 and said, we're going to do this, and it's a short assignment. It's only 10 meetings and maybe a year or so. And every time I've seen Steve Aspel ever since, I tell him that still doing it, but I'm very proud that we stayed together and very proud that we're here and that we got it done. So thank you all.
And I forgot to mention too, we were asking don't I get this beast of a general plan that I worked on, the fruits of my labor? Well, it's a lot of paper, but you do get a blue memory stick that's in the shape of a key. So you get a key to the general plan. So you guys get your own, and so we'll also give you one of these as one of your parting gifts. So yeah, so we'll pass these out later. We'll do the horseshoes next. So Vice Chair. Here's one for you. Or if you want to pick yours out too. The other part, when I was doing these, some of them are small, some of them are bigger, some of them are shiny, some of them have a patina. It's kind of like the group, they're all different, so. Okay, all right.
Excuse me, I'm recovering, but word of advice, remember, you always want the horseshoe to point up so the luck doesn't run out, right?
Truth.
And much like the chairman said when Laura Emdy came to me 6-8 years ago or whatever, so it's a relatively short assignment. I just want to say, you know, when we all started this, my son was in elementary school, and now he's getting ready to graduate from Redondo Union. And I have to say, now that we've reached this, I'm glad we've all stuck this far. So, well done, everyone.
Thank you. All right, move on.
Thank you very much. This is very thoughtful, and I appreciate it. It's been an honor to serve on this committee with, you know, such a talented pool of individuals, and you know, I feel very, even more so connected to Redondo Beach and to my community, and I've, you know, wouldn't trade the thought-provoking conversations we've had, and you know, once again, just, you know, it's an honor just to be here with such a great group of people to have these tough discussions. But thank you for this. This is very nice.
Thank you. Howard?
I think my one word would be that I've learned to respect you all. I'm very impressed with the intellects around this U-shaped table today, and with the various perspectives that each of you have brought to the process. So thank you very much.
All right, Craig. Where's Craig? Why am I not seeing? Oh, you're right in front of me, that's why. It's like when you have your glasses on your head. I can't find my glasses.
Thank you. This really has been an amazing process to be a part of. It was kind of neat because I think I knew most, if not, you know, most of you here prior to this. And when you were going over the amount of hours, I couldn't help but think when the city did its housing element and circulation plan back in 2007. So some of us, like myself and Jim Light, and probably, I was just curious if anyone else around the table had participated in that exercise. But anyway, it's because we love the city. The process has changed a bit, even, you know, in all the years, but it just shows really how important it is. And I think we all really strive to really, you know, to get it right. And yet, as was said earlier, it's not perfect. It can't be, right? Because it just can't by its very nature. But we'll get it as close as we can. I think our work is, we still have a little bit of work to do out in the community, and obviously as this progresses, but it's just really nice to see that our work is coming to a completion, and it just really has been a great personal experience, and I hope very meaningful for all of you as well. My kids were in high school and have now since graduated from college, and are fortunate to be back living in Redondo. But again, it's for the next generation in the future that we do all this. So I'll leave you with, what do they say? It's the person who plants a tree knowing that they will never really enjoy the shade that it will provide. And that's kind of a bit what we're doing now. I think, though, most of us are young enough to start seeing some of it evolve. And
fingers crossed.
Onward and upward. So thank you for this. I appreciate it.
All right, Rob Caddis.
It's been a pleasure working with all of you and staff and the consultants, and between this and the simultaneously serving on the Planning Commission, it's certainly been some years of learning a lot about planning and city issues and such, and going through this 543-page document, which I otherwise would probably not have sat down and read for pleasure over the past couple of days, certainly illuminates what it is to plan and run a city and actively manage a city and such. So this has been extremely educational, and I've really enjoyed this opportunity. Thank you all very much for making it happen.
Jim? Save you a trip.
Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. I wanted to say that it's all about the people, it seems like, no matter what the project is. It's about the people that are working on it. And you've been a very motivated, passionate group, and so much so that it was a bit difficult to come back some of the meetings, but we're through it now. We got through it and we and produced a product for sure. The next step, I guess, to get it implemented. So, thank you.
Matt. Yeah, you know your order. You can get the cheat sheet up there. Get ready.
Cheat sheet up there. So I was actually appointed for District 4, funny enough, by John Grant. I don't really remember what the selling point was, but I do remember scratching my head going, okay, we need to do this. But I will say I was amazed at the conversations that were held and the collaboration that was achieved and the consensus that was built for the most part up until COVID and RENA. And I'd be a liar sitting here if I didn't speak the truth, but I was incredibly disappointed, and it's really hard to say because this whole thing, I feel like it's Damocles' sword hanging over our head, February 2025. I mean, frankly, that's not a burden that should be borne by this being passed or not passed. But again, from the state, one more thing that's out of our hands. I expect it to be passed. If for no other reason, then Districts 1 and 2 will be highly motivated to pass it because the alternative would be horrific. And Districts 4 and 5 don't vote enough, so they deserve what they get. And what they get is, 2,000 plus housing units. But one of the biggest regrets I have from my over 30 years serving on various commissions and city council is not speaking up against things that I had reservations about. So I'm going to change that, and I will just tell you right now, I won't support this. I may actively work against it and let the chips fall where they may. The RENA absolutely killed it. More specifically, the political implementation of the RENA numbers and housing, in my opinion, was all politically motivated, had no basis in planning, or very little. And you have a nice veil of explanation as to why, but if you scrape off the surface, it's obvious what the underlying motivation was. And it's horrible for that to taint this document, but